Hello guys and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to go over the potential free agent quarterbacks in the NFL for the 2023 season. First off, we have probably the most famous name on the list, Tom Brady. This guy, who knows, he could go anywhere really. Many think he's going to retire. I know last year he was supposed to go to Miami with Sean Payton, and that fell through with the whole Flores lawsuit. He ended up going back to the Bucs, not having the greatest season. Obviously, the playoffs haven't even started yet when I'm recording this, so who knows? Looks like they're going to get in, but we don't know what he's going to do. So Miami. So next year, let's see. Miami, he could go, I guess, but I think that bridge is burned. He probably does not go there. Another team that could definitely use him, but I do not think he's going, is the New York Jets. I think they'd be very competitive with him. Another rumor out there is that maybe he rejoins McDaniels in Las Vegas. Depending on what happens with Carr, that's a possibility. We know that he likes the West Coast, so that is a possibility for him. I think depending, he's not going here, but Tennessee is another. He would be great in Tennessee. I know they have Tannehill, and they got their new rookie that they have hope for in the future. I just want to throw that out there. I think he would be pretty good in Tennessee, especially paired with Henry. And they got a good set of at least got Traylon Burks, a young receiver that But yeah, that's not going to happen anyways. Who cares? Another possibility is Indianapolis. The Colts just can't seem to get it right. Irsay keeps swinging and missing after Luck. First he tried the Wentz thing. That fell through, obviously. Who saw that coming? And then Matt Ryan. Then he swung again and hit Matt Ryan. I like that decision a lot better than the Wentz decision, but I proved out to be wrong again. He was, I don't know what it is, but he was terrible. Terrible. So my guess is Irsay wants to swing again for a veteran, but I don't think Tom Brady would really be interested in joining the Colts. Other teams that I think he would help definitely is Washington. They're in flux with their ownership, obviously. So who knows what happens there. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think the Commanders could really, be better with him. Lions also could be a lot better. Goff has actually done really well. So this is not going to happen, but I think the Lions could be very, very competitive with Brady. The funny thing is I think all the NFC South teams could use him. The Bucs could use him coming back. The Panthers could obviously use him. Sam Darnold's not very good. The Saints, I think there's talk about possibly Sean Payton coming back to the Saints and maybe pairing him with Tom Brady in New Orleans instead of Miami. I guess that's a possibility. I don't really know Brady's feelings on that. My guess, just a gut guess, Brady would rather play in the elements than in the dome, but I don't know that. The other NFC South team, the Falcons, also a dome team, not a realistic option, but obviously would be very much better with Brady under center than the Red Bomber. But I think, in my opinion, I'm going to give you my opinion on where all these quarterbacks end up in the 2023 season. My bet is Brady is thinking Niners or bust. He's either going to retire or he wants to join the 49ers. That's just my guess. I know the Niners have a lot of moving parts at the quarterback position. Garoppolo is probably gone. He's probably not going to put up with that another offseason like that. Seems like a really nice guy. Handled it with grace last year. But I just don't see him doing that. I see him moving on. He's a free agent, so it's a little different than last year. So I think he moves on. So I don't think Jimmy G's in the pitcher in San Francisco. Trey Lance, I guess it's just what the coaching staff sees in him. I don't know. I'm not there. They traded up. They got him. They love him, presumably. Didn't look great in this little action he got this year. And the little action he got this year, he got hurt. That is the same that happened last year. So I don't know the longevity, or I don't know how reliable Trey Lance is as a starter, or how good he can be. I have faith that Shanahan can do the right thing with him, but we just don't know. So I'm thinking that Brady is sniffing around San Francisco. And I think Shanahan would be open to that. But in the end, my guess is that the 2023 starter for the Niners will be Brock Purdy. I don't see any reason. I mean, again, the playoffs haven't even started yet. He may fall on his face. I've watched a lot of football in my day. Brock Purdy looks really, really good, really composed for a Mr. Irrelevant, really. I can't see any justification to move on from him. I mean, you got your team's being successful, you'd be a moron, basically. And I don't think Shanahan's necessarily a moron. So I think Purdy's going to be in a Niner starter next year. So Brady, if it's Niners or bust for Brady, it's bust. So I do believe that this is his last year, and I think he's trying to keep everybody guessing at the end of this year, just so he doesn't have to have a swan song. He doesn't have to have people say, "Oh, this was your last game," and "Oh, poor Brady," or he doesn't want to wallow in that. I think he would rather leave it open ended and just kind of walk away when that happens. He's already got a TV deal in place in Fox, so I think he'll probably call it quits at the end of this year. Just a total guess. Niners are bust for Brady. Next person I want to talk about is Lamar Jackson, another big free agent. Obviously, I do not expect him to hit the market. He will probably be franchised. I think this is for this first time. So that's probably what's going to happen. They're going to franchise him and try to work out a long-term deal. Me personally, this is really reminiscent of Cousins in Washington. Never really came to a long-term extension. Just kept franchising it and kicking it down the road, and then it was just not feasible, and they had to let him walk. I think Lamar Jackson has his eye on that. I think that he isn't really negotiating good faith per se, because unless they throw something ridiculous at him, I don't think he's going to sign it. I think he's going to sign his tender and play out again. Because ultimately, what I think he wants, not necessarily to leave Baltimore, but I think what he wants is to leverage the market into the best possible deal, and maybe get a guaranteed contract like the sexual predator got over there in Cleveland. So Lamar Jackson's not going anywhere, so I guess my prediction is Lamar Jackson stays in Baltimore on the franchise tag. Okay, the next person I want to talk about, the next free agent, is Jimmy Garoppolo. I know we touched on him a little bit already. Like I said, I think the Niners are going to let him walk. I mean, they have Brock Purdy, they have Trey Lance. There's not really a room for Jimmy G. They know it. He's going to be coveted in free agency, I think. Some possible destinations for Jimmy G, in my mind, possibly back to the Patriots, depending on what happens with Mac Jones. I mean, I know, hey, playoffs haven't even started yet. Patriots are still in it, but I'm telling you, that offense, terrible with a capital T, is awful. Mac Jones is, I don't know what I don't know how much rope he's got for him. I don't know how much slack, but it can't be much more. The guy's, maybe something else is going on there, but he looks bad. And so I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if he ends up back in New England. I don't think it happens because I think Garoppolo's going to want to be a starter. And if they move on from Mac Jones, I think New England becomes a lot more of a possibility than it is right now. But that is possible because he knows Belichick and they know him. Another possibility for Jimmy Garoppolo, back with, like Brady, back with McDaniels in Las Vegas, depending on what goes on with David Carr. David Carr, right? No, Derek Carr. That shows my age. Anyway, the Raiders, I don't know what happens with Carr. If it were me, if I were the GM, you can't win with mediocrity. He's not bad. You ain't going to win Super Bowl with him. You might as well move on. I don't know what Devontae Adams is going to think about that, but it is what it is. So does Jimmy G line up with the Raiders? Possibly. That's not going to be where I think he ends up. That's not my prediction, but I think that is absolutely a possibility. Other possibilities are teams that would be a lot better with Garoppolo, but maybe not necessarily going to happen. The Jets, again, I think are a team to mention here. Garoppolo back in the AFC East. Other teams, Houston. He could play for Houston. I expect Houston to draft a quarterback. And Garoppolo may not like that situation. He'd probably be the starter for a year or two, and they'd move on. He probably wouldn't be down with that, but they could definitely use him. The Commanders are another team that could definitely use him. That's a possibility. It's really hard to say. Schneider might have sold the team by then. I don't know. I don't know what their new GM would be or old GM. No idea what they're thinking. They can't have Wentz anymore. I don't know. I don't think Washington is really going to pull the trigger on Jimmy G after failing on Wentz, but you never know. I guess another possibility is that he stays with San Francisco, but as we talked about, that's just not going to happen. And then Seattle wanted him, from what I hear, if the Niners had cut him this year before training camp, that Seattle was kind of looking around, and I believe that. I absolutely believe that. I think Slippery Pete would be all over that. So that, I think Seattle's a strong possibility, depending on what happens with Geno Smith or in the draft, or some of these other free agents. But I think Seattle's a distinct possibility. Jimmy G might actually relish the idea of staying in the division and playing his teammates, or he may know how good that Niners defense is and want to get to the AFC. I don't know. So I think the Seahawks are a possibility, a strong possibility. Other possibilities, I think, are Carolina. For obvious reasons, they don't really have a quarterback, and I think Garoppolo would make that team really good. I know Tepper. He tried really hard to get the molester there, and that Cleveland got, but he didn't get him. So he settled for Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold, he started the season poor, and he's kind of finishing the season with a better running game. I don't know. I don't even put any faith in Sam Darnold. He wasn't even really that good in USC, was he? So I don't think they're going to stay with Darnold. Jimmy G's a possibility in Carolina. New Orleans is another one. I'm just picking teams that don't have quarterbacks here, or Atlanta. They got Desmond Ridder. I don't know. I wasn't impressed in Cincinnati with him. When I watched the Bearcats play, this guy is a pretty good college quarterback, but he's no way an NFL quarterback. So Atlanta, yeah, they could use Jimmy G. It just doesn't really seem like a fit to me. But here's my pick. My pick is he ends up in Indianapolis. I think this is the one that Irsay swings for. Wentz Ryan, and now Garoppolo. I think that's going the way it's going to be, and I think that might be a good fit in Indy. I mean, it's got a weak division. Garoppolo's going to have his options, is the point. And he's going to look at Indianapolis if they have an offer, and he's going to say, well, they play in a really weak division, and I'll get a chance to compete. And they don't really have another quarterback here that at all. So this is my job, and he finally gets to take the reins and not have to look over his shoulder. So I think that's where Jimmy G ends up. I think he ends up in Indianapolis. That's my prediction. 4, Daniel Jones. I want to talk about Daniel Jones. His fifth-year option was not picked up by the Giants. Interesting move. They do have a new coach this year. And Daniel Jones is actually having pretty good years, and the Giants, by all the indications, are going to qualify for the playoffs. So there's no reason not to bring Daniel Jones back. I mean, he doesn't light the world on fire. But he's a known commodity in New York. And I think Dable and thinks he can get better, and they're going to work with him. So I think they'll probably sign him before free agency starts to, a 2-year deal or so to see what you can do. So my prediction with Daniel Jones, and I mean, let's be honest, New York, you're not going to win a Super Bowl with Daniel Jones. I mean, you're going to have to do it on your defensive line or on your running game. But in the meantime, for a stopgap or for maybe building a team chemistry kind of thing, Daniel Jones still makes sense in New York. So I'm going to say that Daniel Jones stays in New York. Next person I want to talk about is everybody's favorite, Baker Mayfield. What a career he's had so far. See, this is a guy that I was wrong on in college. I watched him at Oklahoma, and I said, wow, this guy's got so much moxie. He reminds me a lot of Favre. I mean, a lot of Favre, just the way he'd compete and his teammates rallied around him and his overall energy. I loved it. I thought he had all the intangibles in the world. And when the Browns drafted him, I was like, oh, that's a great pick. That guy's going to be good. And he had a pretty good season, a couple seasons in Cleveland, but really ultimately fell out of favor. We know the story. Pretty crappy, actually. And then he, and then he goes to his new team, Carolina, and after they swing and miss on Watson, I called him by his name that time. They swung and missed on him. They settled for a Mayfield and Darnold. Yeah, Mayfield was not good. I watched the games. He's not good. I mean, quarterbacks aren't good for a lot of reasons. I'm not high on Mayfield at all. I think he possibly is a serviceable backup, maybe. He's probably not going to be in the league for very much longer, is my guess. But he's definitely going to play next year. It's just a question as to where. Some of the teams that he possibly could, again, Washington, the teams that need quarterbacks, again, Washington, Seattle. Depending on what happens with Tua, he could end up in Miami. I think that Miami was, maybe kicking the tires on him last year or this year. I don't know. New England's a possibility, but he doesn't really strike me as a Belichick kind of guy. I don't know why. I could see, Belichick calling him an idiot. He could end up with the Jets. The Jets need a quarterback. I know they got Mike White. He's on this list later. But I don't know. They just had Sam Darnold, and they got rid of him. I mean, what's the difference between Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield at this point? So the Jets, these are desperate teams that would really go after him, I would say. Indianapolis is another one. I think Garoppolo goes to Indianapolis, as I already said. But I mean, Mayfield's a possibility there. Could you imagine if Irsay he swings for Wentz? Luck retires abruptly. He panics. He swings for Wentz. We all saw that coming. I mean, that was not a surprise. Sucked. And then swung for a 6, 9-year-old Ryan. and that didn't work out. Can you imagine swinging for another one, such as Baker Mayfield? Oh my goodness, they might make Irsay sell the team at that point. So I don't think Indy goes there, but if they miss out on Jimmy G, Irsay may be desperate enough to sign Baker Mayfield. That's totally possible. But the team that I think he's going to go to, I don't know why, it's just an inkling, that I think they do draft a quarterback. I think Houston will draft a quarterback, but I think Mayfield ends up there. I think he ends up there as the starter, and give whoever the rookie they draft time to get ready, and then Mayfield will maybe sign a year deal, I'm guessing, and show, quote unquote, show what he can do. And if he has success, maybe he can squeeze a starting job in 2024. But I think Mayfield ends up in Houston. I mean, that's a destitute place, and that'd be good for him because he's terrible. Next on the list is Sam Darnold. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we just talked about Baker Mayfield being just like Sam Darnold, so this is the obvious next guy to talk about. Darnold, again, not good. Not good with the Jets. Not good at USC. Just not good in Carolina. Can make throws, just not good. Okay with his legs, just not good. Maybe a backup guy. But any team without a solid backup, I mean, I'm not going to go through the individual teams, but any team with a solid backup would probably be interested in Darnold without a solid backup. Like, I don't know, let's say the Bears. Do the Bears have a solid backup? I don't know. Probably not. They barely have a solid starter. So a team like that. But my guess, like I said, I'm going to make a prediction. My guess for Sam Darnold is that he's a known commodity for Carolina. I think Carolina's going to try to bring in a star. I think they're going to try to bring in a star. I have another one of these other free agents in my predictions is going to end up in Carolina as well. So I think they add these. I think happens is they add one of these guys on this list later on down, and they also bring Sam Darnold back. As ugly as that sounds, they had Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield at the beginning of the season. One of them is now gone. So I think they say, okay, we're going to get somebody else, and you're going to be a good backup, and then we're going to compete. Because I think their draft position, they're not going to get anybody in the draft. And there's not really a lot of big names on this list that they can get. I mean, they could go after a Brady, for example, but I don't think Brady's interested in going to Carolina, right? They could go after Garoppolo, and that's possible. If they throw enough money at him, that's probably the guy that they want, is my guess, is Garoppolo. But I don't think they get him, like I said. I think he ends up in Indianapolis. So with that being said, I think Sam Darnold's just going to stay in Carolina. They're going to have to swallow their pride and just keep him, in my opinion. Next, we have Geno Smith. Geno Smith actually started the year great. I mean, Slippery Pete. I call Pete Carroll Slippery Pete. I don't know why. I just don't trust the guy. But I don't even trust them to punt the football. I just don't trust the Seahawks. I don't trust Pete Carroll. I just don't do it. But he's what a genius, right? I mean, he takes he takes Russell Wilson. It's just like he trades him for 3 picks, saves all that money, and the Broncos are just terrible. Russell Wilson is got to be. I mean, I'm sitting here. I mean, I'm sorry, Sam Darnold. I keep calling you not good or Mayfield terrible, but my God, Russell Wilson. I don't know if any of you guys watched his games this year, but wow, unbelievably just bad. B-A-D. Bad. So Pete Carroll is laughing all the way to the bank with his 3 number 1 draft picks or whatever they got for him. And And Geno Smith played way better than Russell Wilson played, especially at the beginning of the season. I think through week 6 or 7 or 8 or something that he had the highest completion percentage in the league. Just not very high average. So Geno Smith did a lot of good things, but he kind of cooled off, and he's not a franchise quarterback. The Seahawks know that. Schneider knows that. It's just that's who they had, and they brought in, they traded for Drew Lock with Wilson, and he got beat out. Drew Lock is not on this list, so I'm guessing that he will be in Seattle next year, unless he's cut. So, in my opinion, Geno Smith is probably going to stay, because who would want him, basically? I mean, he has an opportunity to at least start in Seattle. Where would he possibly go that some GM or coach is going to be like, oh yeah, Geno Smith, this guy's going to take us to the next level? It's not going to happen. So the fact that he's got a contract, or he had a contract with this team, and they actually played him, I think he's going to be wise to stay put there. The next guy on this list is Mike White. This is a no-brainer to me. The Jets have to re-sign this guy before the season, the new season starts. I mean, obviously, Zach Wilson is I don't even have to say it. You guys know it. You've seen it, especially Jets fans. It's puke. And okay, I'll say this later when I get to Joe Flacco. I'll say it later, but. The Jets have to sign Mike White. He's by far their best option. I know they're going to kick the tires on some of these free agents like Garoppolo and possibly Mayfield and Brady. But, I mean, nobody wants to play for the Jets. I mean, I'm sorry. But, you got a guy that wants to play for you and the crowd is behind and has some success, then I say sign him. I think they're going to bring in a veteran, or going to try to compete with Mike White. But I think, with a year under the belt and with Zach Wilson gone, I think that the Jets might, hey, let's ride with White and see what happens next year. We have a pretty good team. So I think that's what happens. I think White stays. He probably stays. He probably stays in New York, right? Yeah. Let's see. The next person I want to talk about is Tyler Heineke. I personally love the way this guy plays. He's not a great player, obviously. But I love the way he plays the game. He's got a lot of fire. His teammates seem to like to play for him. A lot of moxie. So I think he's a football player. That's what he is to me. You're not going to win any championships with a guy, I don't think, unless you got an outstanding defense. So I don't think he's in anybody's starting plans. But I think he's a good player, and I think he could help some teams. Some of the teams I think he could help: Seattle, Tampa. If Brady ends up leaving, he could help Tampa. He could help Miami, depending on what happens with Tua. The Jets are another one that might be interested in Heineke, maybe backing up White. The Broncos, he would be much better than Rippin. He'd be probably much better than Wilson. I mean, Russell Wilson's just, ugh. But Heineke would be a good option for the Broncos. I think he'd be actually pretty good in the Broncos. Other options: Houston is a stopgap from a rookie that they're going to draft. That's definitely a possibility. Indy's another possibility if they don't get Garoppolo. I think they're getting Garoppolo, but we'll see. So that's a possibility. I think Tennessee would be a way better team with Heineke than Tannehill. But they do have their rookie, and so that's probably the way they're going to go. I'm just throwing that out there, that this guy should be a commodity. I He's not gonna be, because the NFL, but I think he should be. I think he can help teams win. But my prediction for him, I don't know why, but he seems like a Tomlin guy to me. So I think he goes to Pittsburgh. I think Trubisky Trubisky. I don't think he. I don't think he can cut it. I had high hopes for him. I really did. I thought his first year in Chicago, he ran the ball really well. He can't throw worth a lick. But when he was forced to scramble, he was effective in Chicago, I thought. But they never let him do it, really. And, he had a solid backup year in Buffalo, but I don't even know what that means. And then he had his opportunity here in Pittsburgh, and he just fell on his face. And they're obviously going to go with their new guy, with their Pickett. So there's no room for Trubisky. I mean, he may want to stay. I don't know what his contract's like. They may keep him. I don't know anything about it. I just know that Heineke is better. It's a better option than Trubisky. And so I'm going to say he ends up there. Nobody's going to offer him a starting job. He's going to have to take a backup job. But I like him. I think he's a good player. Let's see. The next guy I would like to talk about is the Red Bomber. This guy, I don't even know what to say. If you start the season with Andy Dalton as your quarterback, as your starting quarterback, you might as well signal to the rest of the league that you don't care and you don't want to win the Super Bowl. That doesn't mean he's bad. He stands like a tower and he delivers the ball. He can make good decisions. He's just he just can't do it. I don't know what to say. It's hard to say. I mean, Dalton kind of speaks for himself. So where he's going to go, I don't know. New Orleans can't possibly bring him back. He can't possibly go somewhere as a starter, so he's going to have to look for a backup job. My guess, just a total guess, I don't know why. He seems like an Arizona kind of guy to me. I don't know why, but they got the red bird. He's got the red hair. I don't know. It seems like, and Kyler Murray is, the guy can't stay healthy, and he's generally ineffective. So there's that. But they're not going to move on from Kyler Murray anytime soon. But just a solid backup. I think he's better than Colt McCoy. Colt McCoy's, I was in high school when he was drafted. And he was never good. Tennessee he played for, he wasn't really good there. Anyway, so I think Colt McCoy probably moves on. He's probably retiring or whatever. I'm thinking the Red Bomber ends up in Arizona backing up Kyler Murray. So that's my prediction for Andy Dalton. The next guy I would like to talk about, Jacoby Brissett. Nobody's been shafted as much as Jacoby Brissett, really. He played in New England. Was really effective when he got the shot, right? And and then he went to Indianapolis and it was effective. Got pulled. Goes to Cleveland. They're winning games. They're competitive. I mean, they're not great. He's not awesome, but they're winning games and they're competitive. What happened when they put the serial rapist out there? I mean, did he even score any points? He was terrible. Watson was terrible. I don't know. Maybe they're thinking with an off season and whatnot. I don't know. That's going to look like the worst contract in NFL history, I think. Worse than Albert Hainsworth. Worse than drafting Tony Mandridge. It's worse than Ryan Leaf. That guy is not going to work out there. But anyway, I'm going off on a rant here. So Brissett, I don't think he wants to stay in Cleveland. It doesn't matter. He's a free agent. I would want to go. I'd be kind of pissed if I, worked all them hours and all them days really hard to win, and you just get pulled. You're competitive. You're in games. You're running for the playoffs, and you just yank them because Why? Because you paid this guy lots of money? I mean, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I think any team, similar to Sam Darnold, any team that would really be that doesn't have a quality backup should be interested in Jacoby Brissett. Same old story for him, quality backup guy, and that looks like how his career is going to go. My prediction: he ends up back in New England because of how shaky Mac Jones is and his familiarity with the Belichick system. Even though McDaniels is gone, the Raiders backing up in Las Vegas is another possibility. But I'm going to go ahead and say that he goes back to New England to back up Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones will be back. I just think that here comes Brissett to back him up. The next guy I'd like to talk about, Cooper Rush. We're starting to get into some vague names here, but Cooper Rush had a lot of success when he filled in for Prescott this year. Actually, some argue looked better than Prescott. I would argue that against that, but Prescott doesn't seem to have whatever. The big moments, Prescott is short. He falls short. I don't know if Rush would be any better in that position. I don't know. But he seems confident and reminds me a lot of Romo when he was kind of an undrafted guy down in Dallas, Jerry Jones fell in love with the guy. I think that's probably the case here. I know they're sold on Prescott. They gave him all that money, but with the success Cooper Rush had, I think the Joneses would be idiots to let him go, and I think they like him, and I think he likes it there. And I mean, let's be honest, there's nobody chomping at the bit to sign Cooper Rush to start for their team. So he's probably in the best spot he could be in right now. So my guess is he stays in Dallas. They could have a new coach, but we'll find out yet. The next guy I want to talk about is Teddy Bridgewater. Hey, the guy started out with a promising career, gets drafted by the Vikings, and then he tears his knee up at practice, non-contact, ends up in New Orleans, pretty decent when Drew Brees got hurt, won a lot of games, but won a handful of games there, was competitive. So, okay, this guy's pretty good. He was pretty good in Minnesota, had some success, pretty good in the time that he could spend in New Orleans, and then Brees came back, said, where's he going to go? Carolina. He ends up Carolina, sucked. Teddy Bridgewater there, sucked. But, that happens sometimes when you go to teams. Who knows? Maybe Carolina is just like a place where football people go to die. I don't know. And then he goes to Denver, and he's like, okay, Denver, they got a good defense, they got Fangio, this might actually work out pretty good for Bridgewater. Nope. He was terrible again. So now he was pretty good twice, and now terrible for another two teams. The fact that he keeps switching teams really kind of tells you a lot. He ends up in Miami. Not good. Not good is his time with filling in for Tua. Just slow and not accurate. Great decision making though. So I don't know where Teddy Bridgewater ends up. My guess is that McDaniels and the Dolphins just roll the dice with the quarterbacks that they have this year again next year. They don't have to reteach the system. They believe in Tua. They're going to play him as long as he's healthy. And so they have a backup that has a good relationship with them and knows the system. So I think just with all that being said, I think Bridgewater is as ineffective as he was when he played for the Dolphins. I think he stays. Out is Joe Flacco. This is when I was talking about the Jets earlier, and I was kind of laughing. So I'll mention it when Flacco came. I just don't understand the NFL sometimes. I really don't. Like, yes, you drafted Zach Wilson, what was it, first, third, fifth overall, whatever the hell it was, who cares? You drafted him in the first round. You have all these hopes for him. You play him for, I don't know, I think he got hurt last year, right? But he looked like a rookie last year. Looked like crap. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. Looked like crap. But he was a rookie. So he has an exciting arm, strong, but... And so they bring in Flacco, and they got this Mike White guy, and they're playing musical quarterbacks. But the thing that strikes me, this is what I don't get about the NFL. They start Flacco because Wilson is hurt, right? So they start the season with Flacco, and they're winning games. They're competitive. I mean, Flacco is who he is, but guess what? He's won a Super Bowl. Dan Marino's never won a Super Bowl, right? Now, no one's suggesting that Trent Dilfer or Joe Flacco is Dan Marino. Football is the ultimate team sport, right? And that's why somebody like a Dan Marino never wins a Super Bowl, right? That's why really good quarterbacks, it's a team game. Absolutely a team game. So what I don't understand is, like, the team was responding. They're scoring points. They're winning games. They're beating good teams. But then, Zach Wilson's healthy, and they just take Flacco out. Not only do they take Flacco out, they delegate him to third string and have Mike White back him up. Now, Mike White's a fine quarterback, way better than Zach Wilson. But the point is why didn't you just leave Flacco in there? Like, I don't get it. Like, if the idea is to win games, like, I totally understand the thought, like, hey, we drafted Zach Wilson first overall and we got to get him some reps. Well, sure. But you want to win games, right? If you're winning games, I'm pretty sure that's all New Yorkers care about. In fact, I'm willing to bet the New Yorkers would probably be more proud of Flacco winning games than Zach Wilson. I mean, Flacco's a lunch pail kind of guy, right? It's kind of like a New York kind of attitude. I don't know. It struck me very odd to pull Flacco. I just don't understand the thinking. It must be because they're paying that guy lots of money, but that doesn't mean you're trying to win. That means you're trying to justify your decisions or something. I don't know what it means, but it means you're not trying to win. That's the only thing I know it means. Because Flacco was winning. And Flacco in Baltimore, for a few years with a great defense, was winning. Right? The Jets had the young rookie running back. They had the 2-year running back that was young. They got Corey Davis. They got a pretty decent tight end. They move the football. Their defensive line is really, really good. They got some excellent corners. It's a good team. It's a talented team. And they just, we're going to take out the best player we got at the most important position because we paid this other turd more money. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't know how to say, but I don't get it. So, in my prediction for Flacco. So Flacco, he may retire, right? But I think if the Jets are interested in re-signing him, I don't think he's interested in coming back to New York. I wouldn't like to come back in that situation where you're playing well and then all of a sudden you're third string. Forget it. I mean, I don't know what Joe Flacco's like, but me as a person, that would rub me the wrong way. And if I had other options, I would probably take them. So nobody's going to sign Joe Flacco as a starter, obviously. He's too old and too statue-y and, whatever. He's just not whatever. But I think he's a solid backup somewhere. And to me, again, total guess, where I would want to go, as long as they offer him a contract, where I would want to go is Tennessee. Yes, I personally think they move on from Tannehill. Personally. They have their young rookie, right, that they want to play. And I'm thinking, Tannehill, they're not going to win a Super Bowl with him anyway. They're probably not even going to make the playoffs this year. Let's just move on from Tannehill. He can't do it. let's start our young guy, and let's back it up with Joe Flacco. I think that's what happens. I don't know why. It's just, so my prediction, Joe Flacco is the backup for the Tennessee Titans in 2023. The next guy I'd like to talk about, Gardner Minshew. He's seems to be a polarizing quarterback for some reason. His antics are a little strange. Teams that could use him, obviously, Jets still. No Flacco, no Wilson. I think they're moving on from Wilson. I think he's done. See, that's the other thing about the Jets. Not only did they start Wilson, right, or sit Flacco and start Wilson after success, now they're not even going to have Wilson on their team. So what are you doing? What was that all about? You just totally threw that away. You totally threw the season away. You could have just moved on from Zach Wilson at that time, and nobody would have cared. New York would have celebrated. They probably would have had a parade. Okay. Anyway, moving on. So, where was I at here? I was at, Minshew. That's right. Okay, so the Jets could use him. I think he could back up Mike White. I think that's makes a lot of sense. Minshew probably wants an opportunity to start. Probably. He's had success when he's played. Other possibilities, Indy, but I think, like I said, I think they get Garoppolo. Houston, I think, is a definite possibility. I think Mayfield goes there, but I think Houston is absolutely a definite possibility as a stopgap kind of guy. Other teams, the Commanders, the Seahawks, and the Panthers. I think all those teams are obvious. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But my prediction is Minshew ends up in Carolina. I think he ends up in Carolina with Sam Darnold. And because they're not going to get a quarterback in the draft, I don't think, unless they trade up for one. There's not really a lot of names on this market. They're not going to get Jimmy G. That's the one they want. They're not going to get him. And so I think they're going to be relegated to, hey, let's bring back Darnold. He knows the system. Let's bring in Minshew. He's got a lot of energy. He seems to be a great teammate, and let's have him compete and see where the cards fall. I think that makes a lot of sense for Carolina. So that's my prediction is Minshew ends up in Carolina. The next guy I'd like to talk about, I don't know why, I just think it's funny, Mason Rudolph. Every time he gets a chance to play, he sucks. I don't know what else to say. The guy's been in the system, I don't know how long he's been there, 7-8 years now. He's terrible. They drafted him to take over for Roethlisberger when he retired. Roethlisberger retired, and he's just not good. He's not good. I don't know how you can be in the system for that long. I think he was a second-round draft pick. You can't be in that system that long and be that touted of a talented guy and be that crappy of a player. I'm sorry, he's probably a nice guy, but so Mason Rudolph, I think he'd be desperate for a job. He would probably take any job that he could get. He was a second string in Pittsburgh forever, and then he finally gets a chance to start because Roethlisberger retires. And what do? They go out and sign Trubisky, and they draft the guy, basically saying, "Hey, Rudolph, you suck. You ain't guiding nothing tonight." Anyway. So my where Mason Rudolph is next year, I don't know where, but it ain't on an NFL team. My guess is he's selling cars, or maybe he's doing TV or bagging groceries. I don't know what he's doing, but he ain't playing for the Steelers, and he ain't playing for the Texans. They don't even want him. Mason Rudolph will not, that's my prediction, will not be in the league next year. He may get a contract to compete in camp for a second or third string. That might happen, but if that happens, it doesn't matter. He ain't going to win that competition. He'll get cut. So Mason Rudolph, your career lasted longer than the average NFL career. Congratulations. I think it's time to hang him up. And thank goodness, you didn't get injured. You were part of a very, you can see it right here. Pretty memorable play. Let's put it at that. Call that a career. All right. Let's see. There's two more I want to talk about. Just two. Next one is Case Keenum. Okay, he's backing up in Buffalo. And basically these last two, I just want to pick on the Vikings. I don't know why. I feel like picking on the Vikings. All right. Case Keenum. Yeah, they went out and they got Kirk Cousins. Blah, blah, blah. That guy was effective, right? He was effective when he was in Denver. He was effective when, well, kind of effective. And he was effective when he was in Minnesota. They won games. They went to the I think they went to the divisional round that year, didn't they? And then they just tossed him out like a piece of trash. You know, I mean, that's weird to me. I mean, I don't know what kind of organization does that. I mean, they hired Kirk Cousins. You're not going to win a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins. You're not going to win with Case Keenum. I guess what I'm saying is the margin of difference between Keenum and Cousins is not, $40 million or $35 million or whatever the hell the difference of their contracts is. They're just not. Keenum was just as effective. He could dump it off to Cook. He could find Jefferson. I could probably find Jefferson down the field. The guy's so tall and fast, right? So I don't know. But he's working with Diggs now, his friend, and backing up for Allen. So he Case Keenum doesn't have any prospects. Nobody's chomping at the bit to get him. I'm just thinking he's effective when he plays. So in that case, even though he's a free agent, I think that why not be back in Buffalo? Why not? I mean, I don't know what the dynamics are with his teammates and if he gets along and what his attitude is, but if all those interpersonal stuff works in the locker room and with the team, why would you move on from Case Keenum? He has familiarity with Diggs. He has familiarity now in the system. If anything happens to Josh Allen, he's out for a couple games. I think Keenum can come in and step in and win some games for you. I don't think there's any reason to move on from that. So I think my prediction, Case Keenum stays as backup in Buffalo. And the very last person I want to talk about, just to pick on the Vikings, is Nick Mullins. Okay, so this guy is a free agent. Nobody cares. All right. Anyway, I just want to pick on it because it's funny because the Vikings traded for this guy. Just let that sink in a little bit. They traded for this guy. Anyway, my prediction, not in the league in 2023. He's probably, I don't know, work at McDonald's, I guess. I don't know. He's Nick Mullins out of the league 2023. Thank you very much for listening to my long diatribe of 18 free agent quarterbacks for the 2023 NFL season. I hope you enjoyed it. There will be more of these later, just general NFL topics, some more free agents and some playoff stuff. And I love football. I'm just gonna keep trying to make content. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching. No.